A cabal of secret societies has controlled the world for 200 plus years, and we get to be alive at a time to see it fall. I believe in the power of one person working as a team with other Christian patriots can have massive impact in reversing this ungodly culture. I believe that we have an omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent God that has put his hand on this moment in time to deny the timeline of the enemy and is about to heal our land. This is Rick, your host, and I believe that God has called me to empower Christian patriots with truth. Join us now for the Blessed to Teach show, and let's see what God is doing today.
Market volatility soars as trade wars, government debt, and global chaos shake the economy. But for centuries, gold and silver have been trusted safe haven assets. Overpriced coins may lose value. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals to invest in low-cost 100% liquid bullion. Kirk educates you, charges no commission when you sell, and helps you seize this historic bull market. Protect your wealth now with KEPM at 720-605-3900 or go to kepm.com/B2T.
Welcome, it's Rick B2T here. We're going to be empowering Christian patriots the next few hours. The second hour is going to be a praise and prayer, another channel, but we're going to be talking about from Trump arrest to his dominance, right? And what's going on there in Davos, what he's doing with Greenland, what he's doing with Venezuela, what he's going to be doing with Iran next, it looks like. Larry Ballard is going to be live here in about 20 minutes after we go over some news, so let's dig into some of that breaking news now. I tell you what, guys, look at this. This is kind of exciting. In a lawsuit filed today, the Children's Health Defense, which used to be where Robert Kennedy was, right, before he took his new position, and 5 other plaintiffs accused the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, of running a decades-long racketeering scheme to defraud American families about the safety of the childhood vaccine schedule. So you can see this AAP is a bunch of criminals that have captured that organization that are still trying to give the 72 vaccines to our kids. And that's my opinion of them. If you just look at it. So even though they've shown that the 11 vaccines actually have in other countries are actually safer, they continue to try to force, and 13 states have agreed to enforce these crazy maximum amount of vaccines. And so a lawsuit's going there. That is a beautiful thing. And there's a whole article about it here. The suit alleges that the AAP, again, that is this whole supposed to be pediatrics, supposed to be your friend. You think they're good. American Academy of Pediatrics, just like all the other foundations, health foundations that we're learning about for diabetes and cancer and everything else, turns out to be basically part of the medical cartel income fund, right? The suit alleges that the AAP violated the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, this RICO, so these are RICO charges, by making false and fraudulent claims about the safety of the CDC childhood immunization schedule while receiving funding from vaccine manufacturers and providing financial incentives. I hate it when they does that. While receiving funds from vaccine manufacturers and providing financial incentives to pediatricians who achieve high vaccine rates. So again, this is quite exciting when you start really digging into it. CDC CEO Mary Halliday said that AAP is a front operation in a racketeering scheme involving big pharma, big medicine, and big media. That's part of this whole medical cartel thing, right? That's why they buy off all the media. They buy off all the politicians too. And big pharma gives 10 more times than what AIPAC gives. Everybody's saying, oh, the Jews control everybody, right? And they give like 1/10 of what is 100x of what Big Pharma gives. Over 100x, by the way. It's like 3 million versus 330 million just per year, every single year. So this big pharma, big medicine, big media is a big, what I call the medical cartel, all the way to the insurance companies, to the even the universities that give their patents to the patent office. And so the patent office has bought off all of Fauci's old organizations, bought off. It's like this huge medical cartel. And it is so good to see this happening. And this is a question. It says, do you believe the American Academy of Pediatrics prioritizes children's health or profits? And so this is basically saying it's all about profits. 96% of the people here in this poll agree that it's all about profits. They don't really care about children. So hopefully this starts becoming the population. Obviously, the major population is probably not following Children's Health Defense and didn't answer this question. But you can see the people that do or understand. 96.1% said that they really believe that they just care about profits, and maybe be more evil than that. I might have hit this. We'll explain later, and put it in the comments. See what somebody put on the comments here. Could be interesting to dig into that for a little bit. We don't have much time, so we won't do that. We'll do that at a later time. You have to click right here and scroll down to see the comments. But here's for those that are new to the corruption within the AAP. Here are just a few of their very generous partners, some of which happen to be pharmaceutical companies. This is a clear conflict of interest. You see, you've got Abbott and Merck and Pfizer all on here, Moderna. It's crazy to see how that's happening. So that's good news. The CHG doing what it should be doing, suing these corrupt medical cartels organizations. Hey, the House Oversight Panel votes to advance contempt resolutions against the Clintons. Will the DOJ now move forward? Now, again, this is like contempt charges, like what Peter Thiel and Steve Bannon were charged with, and so it's going to be minimal type prison time. So it's nothing compared to the crimes against humanity that are alleged against the Clintons. So I think this is, it's just going to help make all these people saying, I want indictments, I want arrests, and there's thousands of arrests the DOJ's made, but they want the specific names that are all part of the larger medical. I mean, the whole tribunals that are going to happen, right? It's way bigger than slapping Hillary and Bill with contempt charges, right? So we'll see what happens there. But also, it looks like Ghislaine Maxwell is scheduled to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Now, she might just go on there and plead the fifth the entire time, so it may be a huge nothing booger. But it is interesting that this keeps coming in highlighted. And I believe it's all set up to show the election fraud, subdue a lot of these countries that have been controlling the election, such as Venezuela and Iran. Was part of that. They were the ones that did the funding with transfer payments. So what Venezuela wanted to pay China, they would overpay oil for Iran, and China would underpay, and that difference is called the transfer payments. That's how they hid it from the SWIFT systems. So Iran was very involved in this whole scheme of all 72 countries, working with the CIA and Venezuela, Smartmatic software, all the way to Dominion and HART and ESS, all the stuff that used Sakia and Smartmatic software in the Dominion systems, right? All of that scheme included Iran, and not to mention Venezuela, China, Cuba, as well as Serbia, right? All of them were the direct instigators of almost destroying our countries, and they almost did it. God just gave us grace on the 2016 election and 2024 election, but still, the amount of people we have that were selected by selection machines versus elections is tremendous. It's probably more than 50% of the people, right? So, guys, did you see what's happened to silver? And guys, this is before the Babylonian system crashes I've been talking about. I said the real upside is when the Babylonian system crashes. This is the prelude to that. Hopefully this just gives you guys evidence to know what's going to happen. again, I've been talking about this for 5 years. If I look at this chart for 5 years and I go back, it was at, what are we at? $18 or so back here in October of 2022. And look what it's done, right? It's at 96 now. But guys, this is nothing compared to what could happen when the Babylonian system crashes. And this is really putting a strain on the financials. This is why I just say, guys, just get a free consultation from Kirk Elliott. Just it's free for your time. You get a free expert that understands various types of investments and what you can do with IRAs versus 401ks, what you can do with some strategies you could use to protect your treasures, whether it's cash, whether it's selling some assets, etc. Getting real things though versus fiat currency, real things is vital. And so just understand, get your free consultation, 720-605-3900. You can do international as long as you have a U.S. bank. It's easy to get a U.S. bank. Again, call Kirk to get that free consultation. There's also a link down below in the video. All right, here we go. Heading back to D.C., says Trump. This is the Trump Truth section. He says, it was incredible times in Davos. Davos, however you want to pronounce that. The Greenland structure is being worked on and will be amazing for the USA. The Board of Peace is something that the world has never seen before. Very special. It's interesting. The Board of Peace is all these Muslim countries are paying $1 billion to get on this Board of Peace with Trump, which is great when it comes to the world's twisting and the media lies about Israel being all the bad guy in Gaza and all the Palestinians are the good guys. That's the way the media paints it completely, with Hollywood telling lies constantly about how many people were dead and how many were children, etc. Yes, there's been terrible things happen there. Israel made mistakes, no question about it. Yes, the deep state probably held down to allow the craziness, but what Hamas did was horrible. And now that they were looked at as the victims. Now Trump's got all these Muslim countries, including Egypt, right on the border, and Jordan and Qatar, and all these people coming in wanting to be on the Board of Peace. And that's going to allow Trump to show and play Hamas's hands. And that's what he said. If Hamas does not disarm, they're going to be destroyed very quickly. And they're probably going to let Israel do it. I believe they're the only ones that can do it. But it could end up being an Islamic force that wants to be on Trump's good side. So his power is amazing. And I tell you what he does with his tariffs and positions things so high, he goes in with leverage, and he's able to get just where he really wanted probably in the first place. And that he doesn't want to, have the headache of having a new 51st state and having a bunch of relatively progressive people in that small wanting representation and all that. He just wants to have it for the Iron Dome and security, as well as having the minerals. That's what we're going to get without having to take it in as a sovereign U.S. 51st state. Looks like that's what the negotiations are pointing to right now. So this guy, man, is a master negotiator. We need to be praying for him, for his godly wisdom, and to use that power for godly purposes, and that he doesn't start getting too arrogant again, that he's humble and understands and is doing things God's way. That's what's going to protect him. And praying for his protection. Here is Donald Trump putting this out. This is a meme that says how it started. It has his arrest picture, right, from Georgia. And then it says person of the year, there in December of 2024. How's it going? Yeah, there you go. You got the person of the year actually running the world for the White Hats, right? What a beautiful thing this is. Trump also posted this. Hey, look, Trump sues J.P. Morgan Chase and CEO Jamie Dimon for $5 billion. Again, this is because they debanked him, and they did it 100% to punish him because the Biden administration and all the banking cartel wanted to get rid of Trump, and not to mention everybody else that was around him. So this is interesting because he's put Jamie Dimon up in front of everybody, talking about certain events when he brought all different people, his economic forum together, etc., and academic advisors, and now he's suing him. Shows you what he really thinks about J.P. Morgan, doesn't it? So he's suing J.P. Morgan for $5 billion. Now, that's a drop in the bucket for them, but they're the evil ones in this. They've been fined for manipulating, doing things that so somebody would buy a certain things such as buy silver, that they would purposely do a short on silver, for instance, or a long on silver, and they would do market manipulation just to trigger that to get rid of it, right? So they screwed the little investor over and over and over again. And now they've bought massive silver. So they're not at risk of going down like Citibank and Bank of America. Just do research. You'll see that the shorts and the amount of silver, physical silver, that Bank of America and Citibank is nothing. They're in trouble when this went up to $96 now. It's like they are in huge trouble. But and that's why I go back to that chart that I was looking at early, that silver chart. Let me refresh this, see what it's at exactly right now. So silver is at $96.62, almost $97. That's just crazy. But guys, this is, Gus is going, yes. Yeah. And so anybody who converted their 401ks or IRAs into here is happy now. But again, because it's gone 3.5 up, almost 4x up. But guys, this is nothing compared to what's going to happen. I'm telling you.
I think it was 92 this morning, Rick, when I spoke to them, and it's went up $4 more.
There you go. One day it goes up that far. You gotta love it. So again, this is an amazing run, but it's nothing compared to what it's going to be. It's going to probably have some rocky periods, but the fact is that and here's the basic way to understand this, is that the banks wanted silver to be a low price for the military industrial complex, to make bombs and everything, for all the different things they can do cheap for silver. And they wanted to kind of mask the fact that they were printing all this money. Because if they print all this money, it should automatically go up. Does that make sense? Because it's a real object. There's only so much you can have of it. And as you print money, it should be going up. So to keep it down, to hide the fact that they're printing so much money, and for their cheap silver, they sold paper contracts to you. If you have those, get rid of them and go get real stuff, right? So the ETFs, it's called, or SLVs, those are not good to have in your portfolio, guys. Not good. Now they've gone from 30 to 96, so I shouldn't say that. But what's going to happen is they've sold 370 for every ounce of silver. So we thought it was bad when they would take your $10 and then loan out 100, 1 to 10. In silver, it's worse, way worse. They did 1 to 370 paper contracts. So what's going to happen is, as silver becomes rare, and it's starting to happen now, all those 370 contracts are not going to get the silver. If you want to convert it to silver, like that's what you bought. You bought silver for the future, but you're not going to get the silver unless you go sell it now and use the cash to buy silver. Okay, because pretty soon it's going to separate, and that's when the Babylonian system crashes. And when the physical silver goes up to what it should be, guys, it's going to be skyrocketing prices, I believe. And that's I'm not a financial advisor though, so get it from Kirk. So just like Gus did, and me, and many people on this program, that you call Kirk at 720-605-3900. Again, when we're looking at many people talking about $300, $500 silver, you're going to be very sad that you didn't buy it for $100. Okay, so get physical silver, get bullion. I know that there's some other patriots I love who have silver dealers and they're not using Kirk. It's a big mistake because they're using these guys that are selling them rare coins, and they're getting 50% margin, and the podcasters make a lot more money. I make a lot less money. Kirk makes a lot less money because we're just doing 8% upfront for the total commission and nothing on the back end. Versus these guys making 50% margins on a rare coin that you can't recover that very fast, guys. So make sure you go get bullion silver, the most silver you can get for the least storage price. That is the key to this whole thing. The most silver for the least storage cost. That's why you get 100-ounce bars or 1,000-ounce bars if you have a bigger investment, and you put it into a safe and you don't touch it, and then it comes out and you don't have a back-end commission. You can get it at spot at that point in time. It's a way safer way to do it versus trusting somebody saying, this is a rare coin, it's going to be worth a lot of money in the future, while they're making 50% margin versus 8%. You see the difference? Do not use somebody that's not doing bullion. It's called bullion. So you're just getting the most silver for the least cost. Now, coins are a smart thing to do too. I have some junk silver on hand for emergency. Those are all advice I've been given for 5 years, guys, and I've been proven right now, okay? So please talk to Kurt and get true financial advice on how he's looking at all this, right? All right. So, and just the fact that Trump is suing here is just, to me, it's like glorious. It's like, yes. The lawsuit claims JP Morgan's decision came about as a result of political and social motivations to distance himself, Trump, and his conservative political views. I see Larry on there. We're going to go to Larry here just in a second. Alleged Minneapolis church Bob ringleader went on CNN last night. Here's what she said. So all these arrests started happening, guys. So she basically said, oh, I just went in there to participate in the church. And then I got up and asked questions. Everybody's seen them. Everybody's seen they went in there and they were chanting and screaming. She just went on CNN and lied is what she did. And so you'll be able to see that right here. She just went on CNN and lied. Now she's arrested. She's been arrested.
And I do want to.
The guy that had the real obnoxious thing. He's been also he's detained as well. So many of these people are detained, and it's a beautiful thing to see. To see as the real mess has been cleaned up. I was trying to show you where I'm looking at something else here. This is the Breitbart article. What is this one? This was his media claim ICE detains child in Minnesota after illegal migrant father arrested. It was a lie. They got caught in the lie. So that's an interesting article there too. But House advances a $1.2
Larry's in the room.
Excuse me?
Larry has arrived.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand. I see him. I just mentioned that. And so here's a House advances a $1.2 trillion package with ICE funding after Republicans overcame an infighting. And so this is interesting, though, because Trump is predicting, guys, that we're going to have another shutdown. He's saying Trump predicts a government shutdown because they have a bunch of these appropriation bills that need to be pushed through. So they've got 12 bills that they've only got 6 through. It took them all this time to get just 1 through. And the Democrats are voting no on everything. So they have to get all the Republicans to come together again. So it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. Hey, with that, I'm going to move over to Larry Ballard. We got a whole bunch of stuff to cover as well there on what's going on with the weather and the events in the world and then more. So, Larry, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
All right.
Been a beautiful day here, and I'm enjoying it because they're predicting that by the weekend I might be sitting on 18 inches of snow followed by freezing sleet. So, wow.
Nothing. Yeah. So enjoy your next 24 hours. Right. Same.
I sure am.
Yeah. They're talking about this storm potentially, guys, go being one of the worst in history. If it gives 3 inches of ice in the south, which would destroy power lines and you could lose power for potentially weeks. So prepare. Make sure you get prepared.
No, Rick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're wrong. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. Those windmills are not going to freeze up from an ice storm. Yeah. They're just rock solid.
They're going to really help.
Ask Donald Trump. He'll tell you how good those windmills are.
All right. So let's I'm going to make sure I have this set up correctly here as we go through this. But I know you wanted to show some videos to start out with. Should we go there first, or you want to set this up first?
We should. Let's tell them what it's about first.
Okay.
So basically, it's about something that's in the Bible that says everything that can shake will shake, and then we'll come back and talk about it after you watch about 3 minutes worth of videos.
All
so
right.
Back to you, Rick.
All right, let's come over here so they can see our expressions as we look at this. But this is the first one. I think, and I'm just going to make sure that I am looking at the time frames on this. This one's just 1:28. Let's look at the first 1:28 of this video. Here we go.
A magnitude 8.8 earthquake has triggered evacuations and tsunami warnings in both Russia and Japan.
An 8.8 magnitude earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded, struck Russia's Far East early Wednesday.
The tremor struck Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, which is 250 kilometers away from Japan's Pacific coast.
And right on the cusp of colliding tectonic plates along the Pacific's notorious seismic ring of fire.
Triggering tsunami waves in Japan and Alaska and prompting Pacific-wide warnings.
It's hard to believe, but nearly half the planet's population lives in the shadow of the Red Ring of Fire, a geological monster now stirring in terrifying new ways. Could this be the chain reaction that sets off the deadliest earthquake cycle in modern history? It curls unseen, circling 40,000 kilometers of ocean, a colossal scar stitched into Earth's crust. The red Pacific Ring of Fire, stretching from South America's southern tip, racing past red California's San Andreas Fault, sweeping across Alaska, Japan, and Indonesia down to New Zealand, is the planet's most violent stage. Here lie 3/4 of the world's volcanoes and 90% of all earthquakes, including every red megaquake magnitude 9.0 plus ever recorded. But in 2025, the silence broke. 47 volcanoes are erupting at once, an historic.
Right, I'm going to go to this one as well with the first just 16 seconds of this puppy.
Tonight, the unthinkable is happening off California. New land is rising overnight from the ocean floor, while entire neighborhoods are collapsing into the sea. And the seafloor is rising off California, and scientists are baffled. Over 130 homes have already been lost.
And then here we've got 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
By the end of 2025, strange events erupted across China, signaling that 2026 will be an even more unsettling year. Recently, a netizen captured an eerie scene while building a fish pond. In the footage, an excavator dug into an underground cavern. Suddenly, a massive surge of water shot out of the hole, as if some raging creature was generating this. The excavator operator was so frightened, he had no idea what he had uncovered. Recently in Henan, Hebei, Shandong, and Shanxi, strange occurrences have emerged simultaneously. Underground water gushing, black mud churning, and bubbles rising to the surface. In Shanxi, the famous Nanlao Spring in Jinsi, which had been dry for over 20 years, suddenly began flowing again. In Shandong, an eerie phenomenon occurred in a wheat field. The ground bubbled up with black mud, and the air was filled with rising bubbles. Local villagers said there was several spots like this, resembling the ominous signs before a volcanic eruption. The sight was unsettling. In Shanxi base of Shan village in Qin County, large amounts of gas have been rising from the ground. In Jinan, Shandong, and the Longchuan Temple, an ancient spring is erupting. The recently revived Meihua Spring is also spouting, with water swirling like 5 streams, resembling a blooming plum blossom. The name Meihua Spring comes from this very site. The spring that had been dry for over 30 years at the source of the Jialu River in Zhengzhou had suddenly revived. On December 4th, 2025, the long dry spring began to flow again. Initially the flow was small, but after a few days it grew larger and started gushing. The water column was as wide as a bucket, with streaming water rushing out and flowing along the ancient riverbed towards the Jialu River. On December 22nd, the pump house covering the spring was dismantled, and the surrounding area was paved with cobblestone. The water was crystal clear, attracting countless people who gathered to witness the spectacle. What was once a desolate area along the upper Jialu River quickly turned into a bustling marketplace. A netizen recently captured an odd phenomenon on the Yangtze River, where the water suddenly appeared to be boiling. The netizen expressed confusion, asking what this strange occurrence was and what was happening beneath the surface. A farmer mentioned that the water in their village was bubbling up from underground, likely due to a spring. The water has now spread across the area, flooding the entire village's farmland.
Whoa, pretty crazy stuff there, Larry.
There's more. I could have given you another 20 minutes worth of videos, so let me go back. For those of you who opened your Bible at some point in time, God warns us. He says that when you see these events, this is out of the book of Revelation, that you'll know that things are coming. So a earthquake doesn't mean a thing. A volcano doesn't mean a thing. But 47 at one time, all these events happening around the world at one time, that's God signaling, I'm on the move. We're going to be talking most of this show about geopolitical changes, about collapses of governments and so forth. But God wants us to know that he's in control, that he's waking us up, and he's going to pull us into this so that we will eventually maybe get scared enough to bend a knee and to surrender to God. So before we leave this topic, I want to bring up a couple of more things that I saw, and I want to talk about some folklore, and then I'll turn it back to Rick to see what kind of comments he made. So you saw all those springs all of a sudden bubbling up in China, and probably know that China is a very, very old culture. And before we had, scientific data, they had folklore. And what they say is that when these kinds of events happen, and when the water starts to come out of the ground where it hadn't previously, it's signifying a buildup of pressure under the ground that signifies a natural catastrophe is on the way. And then we got something else happening. We've got these eerie looking creatures that are found normally down in the deep trenches, and they're coming up to the surface. And so lore on that also says that when those events happen, that they're coming up for a reason. And basically it signals that they're sensing something. And then again, a geological event is about to take place. And when you saw those crows flying, if you went on and listened to the rest of that video, they're supposed to fly south. It's the middle of the winter. They're flying north. And then the last thing to look at is that basically looking at weird and strange things that are happening. I'm in Missouri, and just a few weeks ago, we had the Northern Lights. And I've seen the Northern Lights before, but I was up in the far, far reaches of Alaska, and I was up in Canada. And yeah, okay, I expect it, but not in Missouri. And so that's giving us a signal. So what I'm going to do now is tell you from a more scientific viewpoint why all this is happening. So before I do that, Rick, would you like to chime in and say anything?
Yeah, it's just interesting. It's that the earth is shaking, and but I just want to say one thing is that just make sure you are hanging on to the kingdom that can't be shaken. Hebrews 12:28, right? We ought to be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, and that's what we have because the world is shaking right now. Right.
Well, the title of this show is here it is. It's just telling you what you said. It says, become the calm in the storm. And then the subtitle is Be the Light in the Darkness. And then we got some scriptures. But let's go down. I want to break down for you scientifically what's happened. Now, we heard the folklore, and now let's hear the science. So basically, why did we see the Aurora Borealis halfway down the continental United States? Because the magnetic field of the United States is being disrupted. Where do we get mountain ranges that basically dot the world? It's from some kind of very, very huge, powerful geological event that occurs, right? So let's look at it. Right now, this year, everything's coming together this year. This is the year where God's going to shake the world. So what we've got is, I don't know how many hundreds of years you have to go back, but every single solitary planet in our solar system is lined up in a straight line facing the sun. So what does that do? That brings additional gravitational pull. And when you've got all these events happening, then it puts more stress on the geological structures that can cause earthquakes. And for those who don't follow this kind of stuff, God's had me study about everything under the sun. The earthquakes come in little swarms, hundreds and hundreds, at maybe only one or two on the Richter scale, but each one breaks down that rock a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Then you get a mega quake. And then what that does is that then ties in and causes volcanoes to erupt. But what's happening that's more important is the Aurora Borealis. So basically that's signaling that our electromagnetic field is breaking down. And so I'll tell you about that in a minute, but let's go back. I don't remember the exact date, but there was an event way, way back in the 18th century when we had none of the technology we have today. The most advanced thing we had was the telegraph. And so what happened is we had a massive solar flare, and you call it an EMP if you would, and telephone lines caught on fire, and the terminals where the operators were sending their messages caught on fire. And that was from a solar flare. So what we're looking at now with all this alignment of the planets is setting us up for maybe the biggest solar flare we've ever seen. So I want to give you a little bit of a warning. If anybody out there has any really, really significant information on their computers, you might want to put it on a backup drive, or you might want to take your whole laptop and get yourself a Faraday cage and put it in it. Because if this pops, you're gonna lose the data that's on your equipment. So God is showing us everything that's coming. Now, what's the next thing? Why do we have that 47 volcanoes, a record? Because basically the earth is changing. Here's your explanation for that. with the tampering that we've done with our.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right side. I'm still on slide 1. Are you moving through the slides?
I'm not really talking about any slides yet.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because I know you're talking about volcanoes. I didn't see anything in the slides.
No, I'm just talking about what we saw in those films.
Okay.
So basically I'm going through three pieces of it. So we're messing with we're causing climate change. I mean, some of it's coming from nature, but we're also interfering. So I want you to think about this. The Earth sets on a 23.5-degree tilt, and we've got trillions of tons of ice on the North Pole and the South Pole, and they're melting. We were fighting over Greenland because we see that we're going to have an Arctic passage coming up soon. So what's happened is trillions and trillions of tons of ice have melted. And what's that doing? Think of a lever that basically on that axis, it's tilting like this. And why we're having all these volcanoes erupt and all these earthquakes is because the tectonic plates are now, they have seductions. They go down under one another. And if they're getting pulled up like that, you just created a mountain range. You just created an uplift. You just created some kind of a geological event, the likes of which we haven't seen in my lifetime. That's what's looking like it's going to happen. And when you see, if you live down in the lower 48, if you see the Aurora Borealis, that is a huge tell. Now, there's one other event that relates to this, but I'm going to wait until we get to, I think it's the second slide. So now, Rick, bring up that slide. And I just want to bring this up so the people know we're focusing on God. He's saying, I want you to turn to me. So what he's saying here is, for we know that the whole of creation has been groaning together in the pain of what? Childbirth. So we're having a situation where basically everything that can be shaken will be shaken to get us to pay attention to the Lord. And then down below, I did this off the top of my head. I think I might have given the wrong scripture here, but the wording's right. Is I give you authority over the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So basically,
and that's Luke 10:18 and 19. So you did pretty closely.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of my memory verses. It basically says, I have given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. So that's Luke 10:18 and 19.
There we go. So God's hand is in this, basically, is what we're saying. So let's go down to the next slide, and we're going to break this down. But before we go any further, Rick, do you want to comment?
Yeah, it's just interesting times, because I love how you say the calm. It's a calm before the storm. That's preaching to me for sure.
So we're going to finish talking about the geological events. My sister lives in St. Louis, Missouri, and they're having sinkholes like what you see here pop up in the middle of the United States of America. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. And the picture up to the right, that's a flood, but it could just as easily be an earthquake. The earth is moaning. It's going through what that previous slide said, child pangs. You might not recognize what that picture down to the left is, but those are pilings along the Mississippi River, and that white strip is where they measure the height of the water. Look how low down it is. So here's what's happening. Men mess with the weather, and we cause the events that we just talked about. And we always think we can control Mother Nature. Well, we can't. Here's what's happened in the Mississippi River and in lots of rivers around the world. The Colorado River doesn't even dump into the ocean anymore. Before it gets there, it's out of water completely. Well, on rivers like this, basically the cycle that God created on the Nile and the Euphrates and all over is in the spring they flood. And you may have floods that go out for miles on both sides of the river, and that water sits there for months, right? Well, as the spring rains subside, the level of the river goes down, and then all that gushy, wet, moist mud water sits there, and it gets pulled back into the channel of the river. All right, it's the heartbeat, the breathing in and out of the ecological system of the world. And when we look at a river, most people don't understand, you're only looking at half of it. The other half is down below in the aquifer below. So it's the Mississippi River aquifer. And we're pulling water out of the aquifers all over the world, right? So here's what we're doing to the Mississippi. And this is why we're seeing from a different perspective, we're seeing the sinkholes down in Florida. We're seeing them in California. We're seeing them in China. So what's happening here, though, with specific regard to the Mississippi River, is we're evacuating the aquifer below the river. It's not filling up correctly. It's not breathing in and out. And so what that causes in terms of the Mississippi River is channels are changing. The water flows are going up and down in unpredictable fashions, and they're having to lower the amount of cargo they can put on the ships. It's definitely leading to a problem, and we caused it. And we're having water problems all over the world because we are not respecting Mother Nature. So basically, the number one problem isn't carbon. You heard, for those who watched Davos, I was clapping. Trump was saying about Germany and so forth, they've got more windmills than I've ever seen. And the cost of their energy has gone up 60 whatever percent. But guess what? You know, the country that makes those is China. They make more of those windmills than anybody else. And you know, I've never seen a single windmill farm over in China. Maybe there's something going on, folks. So
anybody who buys it is stupid, he says.
What?
Anyone who buys a windmill is stupid.
That's right. And listen to this. You know, we got a silver squeeze going on. We got a squeeze going on with bricks on the dollar. And guess what else? You know who it was the number one producer of 5G, of windmills,
China.
Of solar panels, and of the batteries for EDs. It's China. And guess what? The world is coming against all of those green technologies. They flat out don't work. I'll give you an example. Israel made a super efficient solar panel. They wouldn't let it on the market. Any solar panel that's more than 30% efficient is not allowed on the market. They put them in, the storms tear them up, they go into the landfills, and they poison the landfills, poison the planet. And then that wind farm that produced 30% then has to transfer the energy through the grid to wherever, and depending on the distance and so forth, it can have up to 60% degradation. So when he says that solar and that windmills are the most inefficient, most costly energy source we could possibly have, it's true. What's he saying he's going to do here? He's going to allow these factories with that $18 trillion that are coming in to build their own power plants. And if they have excess, they can sell it to the grid. So bottom line, here's what happens. The world is going to get woken up, thanks to Donald J. Trump, about the green scam. And China, that's already bleeding out, is going to have all of those technologies go defunct. China is in real trouble. And there's just one more nail in their coffin. All right, now, should we go on, Rick? You want to add anything to that?
No, I'm thinking we're good.
I'll go back up for a second. I'm sorry. Go back up. There's something I want to say. Oh, you don't have that slide. I got one extra slide. So let me tell you what's on my screen. I've got a sign that says understanding the big picture. And what I want you to understand is that as things are changing, as governments are falling, as everything's falling apart, we need to understand there's not one nation in the world that's sovereign. We're all controlled by the global financial elite. So we should look to China and say what China's doing, or Russia's doing, or India's doing, or America's doing. It's all a fight between the white hats and the black hats, and it's all controlled by the global financial elite banking system. And guess what? This silver squeeze that we've been talking about, it's collapsing the banks. You see the 4 or 5 biggest banks in the world are heavily into silver, and they don't have it to deliver. And when those contracts are due at the end of March, we're going to see billions upon billions upon billions of dollars that have to go on the books on those banks. And I predict that we're going to see multiple large banks fail. All right, now let's go to the next slide, Rick. Sorry about that. I put in an extra slide on my end. I didn't realize I had done that. So, Rick, this is where you and I started having a dialogue. I'll let you open it up. Why don't we talk about what is happening in Iran, and we'll go nation by nation around the world, and we'll see what is God orchestrating. Is he orchestrating the fall of nations? Because he says he can make people fall in a day, he can make nations fall in a day. And is he changing the geopolitical structure? But before I do that, I want to say one thing that I think I just got to get out to point the point at God. So we had an event that happened a long time ago with Goliath, and David came along and he picked up 5 smooth stones, and Goliath fell. And Kim Clement said this whole economic system would be triggered by one small stone. What's that stone, folks? It's silver. Silver is breaking the economic bank. And then what's going to happen is that's going to cause the chaos, and then gold's going to come in and finish it. So, but it has to happen. This is why I'm saying you need to see this, because you're not to be afraid. We have to take the monetary power away from the global financial elite. He who controls money controls the whole influence. They buy the elections. They basically control our courts. They control the CEOs that feed us poisonous food. They control the banks that enslave us. It all has to come down, and Donald Trump has a plan. He plans on orchestrating that collapse. And then he's got $18 trillion coming in. He's freed the way for all those factories to be built quickly. He's put it away to make the dollar collapse slowly as opposed to a catastrophic collapse. So he's going to allow it to collapse to get back control of the global financial elite. And then bam, we're going to have an immediate comeback, and America is going to be restored and be greater than ever. And within a year and a half, 2 years, we will have gotten back our position as the #1 manufacturing power in the world. Now, we're not going to come out of this as the world's sole reserve currency, but we're going to come out of it probably as the dominant reserve currency. And then there'll probably be China and India and Russia and a few others that will have sovereign currencies that are in a basket of reserve currencies. So what we're going to go through is a metamorphosis from a world that's controlled by America or by China to a world that's not controlled by anybody. We're going to go back to a regional organization, back to what we had before, where there were regional distributions of power. So that's what's coming. So let's go to the next slide. And let me shut up and you chime in.
No, I think it's good. I mean, what's happening in Iran is so sad at this point in time, and just praying that the Persian people, all the way back to Cyrus, for Isaiah 45, where Cyrus was called out way before he was even born, to be used by the Lord to capture most of the world's wealth, and then let the captives free, which was what they did to allow Israel to go back and build the second temple, right? So it'd be real interesting to see if Israel ends up helping set the captives free from the Islamic regime there. So I'm hoping happens quickly.
Oh, remember that temple coin that's been printed with Cyrus and Trump on it?
Yeah.
If you want to go back and come forward. So here's what I see. I've been studying all this, as you know, for years. My heart goes out for these women. So let me tell you what happens under Sharia law. If one of those women that you see happened to commit adultery, the husband can go out and have sex with anybody he wants, and there's nothing that happens to him. But if a woman does it, her husband can literally, under Sharia law, beat her, kill her, and there's no consequences whatsoever. These women live in absolute, just slavery conditions. So that's coming down. Now, here's my comment on Iran. So there's, we haven't reached the tipping point where it's over yet. But here's what I say. I say that right now, we've had these riots break out before. America didn't come to the aid of them. If we don't see this all the way through right now, then they're gonna hang people right and left. They're gonna come back and have more power than they've ever had, and they're gonna get their nuclear weapons. So I see that we've now crossed the Rubicon, and the prophets are saying it's gonna look like we're gonna have World War III. But trust me, we're not. God's not gonna have that happen. It's not that point in the Bible yet. But we have to see this through. and we have to, and they have to collapse. Now, here's what I guess I want to say about Trump. There's people who are saying, well, Trump said he was going to send troops, and look at all this time, and he hasn't. Well, first of all, he's massing massive amounts of troops. But secondly, the world isn't the world that it was before. We no longer are able to go in and do what we want to do. We've got to look at other nations. We had to give Israel a chance to get ready for the bombardment of the missiles that were going to come. We had to talk to the oil producing nations in the Middle East because they're concerned about what their oil repositories being bombed, and oil, I mean, that triggers the economic system in the entire world. So this is a very delicate situation. And what I think Trump really is hoping, I mean, I'm not a mind reader, but I think what he's trying to do is show force and keep the people in the streets. And basically they're now putting red, just like we had the red blood over the lintels when we had the Exodus. They're putting red marks on the houses of the Iranian Guard, and they're going in and taking those people. So we're hoping, at least I'm hoping, that we're going to get us to a situation where the soldiers, the military just step down. But this is going to get dicey. It's going to look like it might go to World War III, but I don't believe it will, because according to my Bible, it's not that time. So Rick, back to you with comments before we go on to the next thing that's volatile in this world.
Yeah, I think we've been praying about Iran quite a bit, and we have Suri Backstage, who's from Iran, right? And so she's waving at you right now there. And what I believe is happening is that is God's orchestrating something of wisdom for Trump. If he had just thrown bombs at him early, one thing that Israel talked to him about is that is not going to result in regime change. So they're working with Israel and Trump and with the insiders that they have there to actually work on actual regime change, right? So I think they had showed restraint last time, where the B-2 bomber just went and took out the Fordo plant and the other nuclear facilities, and that's all they did, right? Now you've got Trump saying he gave the promise to the Iranian people that help was on its way, right? And he's going to give it in the correct way. And so instead of jumping and that is going to include, I believe, taking out Khomeini. It's going to be taking out Revolutionary Guards. It's going to be taking out key leadership. And I believe we're going to be working with Israel on that, because they have so much more experience than we do from the 12-day war. So I believe this is going to be a coordinated attack, but with Israel and the U.S., to basically take out that evil regime completely. I mean, they're the ones that have been funding Hezbollah and have been funding the Houthis and funding Hamas and the whole ring of fire, right? Not to mention all the bombs. And so they starve their own people to build bombs to destroy Israel, right? It's just a satanic institution. Their hatred for Israel is worse than the love of their own people. And that's what they've. So anyway, I think this could be like, and people are, he's a warmonger. I know what I believe that China and we need to pray for this, and Russia are going to stand down completely, because they understand, I believe, that what the consequences would be if they try to get involved. Now, China has been flying planes in there, and so but that could be a little bit of a deterrence for Trump. But if some of the Q stuff comes true that says that you really have Xi and Putin actually working with Trump against the globalist cabal, part of that is getting rid of the extreme Muslims as well, right? And so you've really got three major enemies here. You got the CCP, which is part of the cabal that Xi's having to work with, assuming he's a secret white hat, if you will. Russia's been fighting the deep state for quite a while, and so we have globalist, we have the CCP communist, and then we also have the extreme Muslims, right? So these three Satan uses in a beautiful way to have the world at war at all times, right? And so we actually had to take out all three of those, because they're used by the cabal to have forever wars. And I think that I believe Xi and Putin are going to stand down and allow the biggest disruptor in all the Middle East to be taken down. So I pray and hope that we can see the freedom of the Persian people soon. Amen and amen. Yep. All right, that's my thoughts there.
I want to go back and bring a couple of things forward that I don't think most people would bring forward. When I had my near-death experience in '68, God said, get up off the ground, go read the Bible, cover to cover. When you finish it, go read the Quran, cover to cover. So I've read that book. I've read it, every word in it. And basically, they've got the 12th Amman, and why we need to be afraid of them is they're radicals. They basically are willing to blow up the world in order to kill the small Satan and the large Satan. That's why we have to be afraid of them. That's why they have to come down. And so bottom line, we can't back off. But I personally, this is just my opinion. I think that Trump doesn't want to have World War III. I don't think anybody does. I don't think that right now, given the economic condition that Russia's in and that China's in, they're not going to go to war. They're just not in the position. Every major nation in the world is on the brink of collapse. And so I think this is going to get very scary. But what I'm praying for, and I don't know that this is the fact, that there's going to be enough pressure put on that basically the military within Iran revolt against the regime. And maybe this happens with minimum walks of life. Or maybe we get in like we did in Venezuela and we do some kind of a surgical strike that turns the tide. I don't know. But basically, the one thing I want to say is now Pandora's box has been opened. And we have to see this through, because if we don't, Iran will come back with more vengeance than you can imagine, and they will eventually get that bomb. So for good or bad, we're in it now. So basically, let's go on down to China. And what we're going to do is take a trip around the world, and we're going to see when God said, I can bring a man down, a leader down in a day, or a nation. I mean, we're right in the midst of it right now. So let me go back to you, let you open it up, and then I'll chime in at the end to kind of put a nice little bow around it. So we're looking at China and what's happening over there. Back to you, Rick.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things here is that if Z is actually working against his deep state / communism, as Trump is working against his deep state communism, and so that's not the normal way people look at this, but that's the way Q wants us to at least ask questions, right? Could Trump be working with Z and Putin to take down the New World Order? But in order for that to happen, the powerful CCP that wants to run the world, that has to be dealt with, right? And that's what you're talking about now. So go ahead.
Well, for those who follow me, you might recall that God also told me I had to read history. I read the Bible, the Quran, history, geology, sociology, anthropology, you name it. So I've been studying for going on 58 years now. So I'm going to bring some history in here. So basically what we've got is, let's go back to what you said about Russia. Russia has forever been against globalism. They wanted to be a sovereign nation. So back in the 18th century, I don't remember the name of the organization, but they tried to birth what would have effectively been the UN. It was vetoed by Russia, the Tsar of Russia. And that's why they came in, and they basically, the Bolshevik Revolution came in and they massacred the entire Romanov family. Then we go to World War II, and they tried to get the UN put in again, and basically they didn't get enough support. It was voted down. That was World War I. I'm sorry. And then finally, after World War II, they got it passed, because we can't ever have another war like this again. But in reality, the UN is controlled by the global financial elite, by the Rothschilds, by the evil people, and they're the ones that are orchestrating all the chaos that we see in the world. They're the ones who run the World Bank. They're the ones who want to say, if we have another COVID event, we want to have the right to lock down every nation in the world. They're the ones who run the World Trade Organization. And I believe that Trump is eventually going to get to the point that America is going to get out of the UN. But anyway, back to China. I have a unique perspective, because God had me travel all over the world and work in all kinds of significant jobs. And I was in China days before Tiananmen Square. I was right in it before it happened, and people were pawing all over me. What's it like to be an American, to be free? So the day it happened, I was a long ways away. I was on the Great Wall, but I was in China for several more weeks after that. And here's what happened. For those who were on the ground like me, it was tense. The people were ready to riot, just like we're seeing in Iran. And the Chinese and the government said, if you will agree to live under communism, we will give you full employment and we'll raise you up from poverty to the middle class. So that was a compact, a social compact that was made to keep the thing that the communist CCP was most afraid of, their own people, to where they wouldn't revolt and take the government down. And so now that contract has been broken because China's being stripped of its manufacturing. It has massive unemployment. They have ant people who have college degrees who were told, you go to school and get a college degree, you'll live fine. And yet they're working 16 hours a day and living two people in a studio apartment. And then you got people who've come out more recently who are called the lay down people. They said, we won't even participate because there's no hope. And then the elderly, they've had most of their money in real estate, and the real estate market is catastrophically collapsed. And then back to what Rick said, let's look at the history of J.G. Ping. Why would he be a white hat? Because his father was high up in the CCP, and an event happened where basically he was ostracized, and J.C. Ping was sent out to live to work in the farms, and basically he learned, I believe, to hate the CCP, and then he learned how to work within the system. And I think it's entirely possible that he is doing just exactly what Rick said. He is there to bring down the CCP. And if we look at Russia, we go back over there. If for those who can look at Israel and not just think about what we're told about Israel is just, perfect, perfect, perfect. Basically, there's things happening around the world that I believe that basically Ukraine has been part of money laundering for the global financial elite, and maybe, just maybe, Trump and Putin are on the same side. Look at that. For those who follow it, look at what was said when Putin threw that soccer ball to Trump. The ball's in your court now. So I believe Rick is right. I believe there could well be leaders in China and in Russia that are white hats, just like Trump here in this country. So Rick, you got any comments to add to that? Oh, I got one other thing. Those pictures down below where you see all that smoke, what that's from is all the almost 50% of the population that's unemployed or has a job and hasn't been paid for months, and they are revolting like you can't believe, calling for CCP for J.G. Ping to step down. And what you're seeing there, they're burning factories because they've worked, and now the factories are not paying them. So there's absolute chaos in Iran and absolute chaos in China. Rick, back to you to wrap this up before we go to the next hotspot of the world.
Yeah. And since we only have about 15 minutes, I'm going to let you kind of go through these. Go ahead.
All right. And that's my cue to talk fast, which I can do really
okay.
So we're going to Russia. And basically what's happening in Russia, there's an oil squeeze. That's what's going on. Basically, Putin's economy runs on oil and natural gas, and Trump has negotiated a deal where Europe has agreed not to buy the oil from him anymore, and so is Iran. And basically, we got the squeeze going on in China for oil from the tankers that are not making it from Venezuela. So there's pressure being put on. They're squeezed by the BRICS on the dollar. They're squeezed by Trump on oil. They're squeezed by what's the third one? On silver. So basically, every nation is getting squeezed, and every nation is on the brink of collapse. So I just ran across a news feed today. I didn't have time to read it, to get deep into it, but it was a conversation between Trump and Putin, and apparently Putin is in real desperation for money. So he's thrown a little offer out that says, hey, if you'll take those sanctions off of me, I'll consider agreeing to spend some of that sanction money to help rebuild Ukraine. So what God has been showing me forever is we're going through all these nations collapsing, taking the money away from the financial elite to have a new economic system, not communism, not capitalism, but not the system of God, which we don't have time to talk about now, but basically everything that collapse is going to collapse. Russia is now squeezed to where they may have to talk about surrender. So what Trump is doing and what God wants, we can't have God's new economic system if we're going to continue to have all of these ongoing perpetual wars. So we're coming into a period where the wars are going to be brought to an end. Rick, before we go on, and I'll talk fast. We'll get through it within your 15 minutes. I promise.
Yeah, I'm good on that. Mm-hmm.
All right. This next one is really simple. I think everybody's been watching Venezuela. And look at that picture in the forefront. Hey, that's an American flag. Those people are celebrating America doing what they did. And so basically, Venezuela is now going to be under our control. The oil companies have gotten together. They balked for a while in the beginning, but Trump said, "I'll give you protection. We'll get the money that's owed you back, and we'll make it so that you can go in and develop those oil fields and make billions." So stability is going to be coming to Venezuela, and that's the key to a couple of things. That's the key to stabilizing all of South America and Latin America. We don't have time to get into all of it, but it's also the key that's going to, in my opinion, make all the dominoes fall. And that is the disclosure of the election tampering that was done by Venezuela with the Smartmatic machines that cost the elections in 72 different countries. When we find that out, think about what Trump just said about the auto pen. All those laws, all those executive orders are going to be canceled. When we find out the extent of the election fraud in America, we are going to remove, I don't know what percentage, but I'm telling you, Congress, governors, the politicians that we see, just like Kim Clement, they're going to be gone. That's going to pull the plug and drain the swamp. And that, along with the financial collapses, is what's going to give the world back its freedom. So the people in Venezuela are going to win. The people in China are going to win. The people in Russia are going to win. And the people in America are going to win. So let's go on down and look at what Trump is doing in our hemisphere. So I don't know what to think about this. I don't know if Canada has fallen, and this is just something to basically make them look insane. But Carney went over to China a few days ago, stayed there for 3 days, and came back and announced an agreement with China. And he's gone against the auto industry that was really significantly responsible for him getting elected. And the car tariffs have gone from 100% to 6%. And he comes back home, and what does he see? Oh my God, Alberta is just about to get all their signatures to have a vote to lead. And the more they do, the more all the rest of the resource west is coming into line. And basically, it's looking like 7 provinces in Canada could, within the next several months, vote to leave. So basically, he's walking in. If this is, I don't know what to think of this, but if he's really going to line up with China, and what he said that just blew my mind is, if I go back to 1989, we had the fall of the wall in West Germany. And what happened is a communist Pope Paul II from Poland, Gorbachev, and a U.S. President, George Bush Sr., got together and orchestrated that fall. And 20 days later, they met, not in a government building, but in a church. And they announced the birth of the New World Order. And what did Carney do? When he was over in China, they had footage of him talking about aligning with China and supporting the New World Order. Oh my goodness gracious. So let's go on down. And now, if there's anybody in Canada that's listening, anybody in Europe that's listening, because Europe is cozying up to the Chinese as well. They say, we need their money, we need their technology. Well, folks, here's what you're going to get. See that little picture up there that says CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency? Let me make an announcement. You're looking at the beast system right out of the Bible, right out of the book of Revelations. Here it is, and it's already happening in China. Look at that picture down below. That's facial recognition. And so what they have done, they used to mine more Bitcoin than any other nation in the world. They kicked them out. Why? Because Bitcoin is decentralized. They don't want decentralized. They want to be able to have a programmable currency that says you can't buy this or that, you can't buy from that location. They want to be able to sanction you. So if you say anything about the CCP, they can basically make it so you literally can't buy anything and sell. Anybody associates with you, their credit score is dinged. Anybody who rents a place to you, their score is reduced. Anybody who hires you, you can't buy food, you can't get on a plane, you can't leave the country. That is the epitome of the beast system. And any government that embraces that, they have sold their people out to the devil. And that's what I want the people to understand. What we're doing in America through Donald Trump is the exact opposite. So I say, be careful of what you do. If you're retaliating and lashing back against America, if it's just show, that's one thing. But if you're really thinking you're going to go into that system, you need to be very careful. Let's go to the next slide and we'll see what is coming to America. It's our freedom. It's basically getting out from under the beast system. So we're going to go to a system that Trump is going to create a soft collapse. He's backing our currency with gold, with XRP, with a stable coin, and with he's basically going to create a situation where we're partially backed by gold, creating confidence in the dollar. And if you buy the stable coin, it's backed by the full confidence of the U.S. government plus gold. And what that's going to do is give people to stop abandoning the dollar and be willing to use it. But the real genius of what Trump is doing is all of the provisions are being passed one by one to facilitate the full-blown transfer of the complete economic system. And what that's going to do is basically trigger XRP. And when the financial collapse comes down, the banks collapse, XRP is going to be needed for liquidity, and it will be used around the world. And remember, it runs 24/7. You can transfer trillions of dollars for fractions of a penny in 3 to 6 seconds, and it is completely decentralized, which means all the mechanisms that they've been controlling us with are exposed. Because if you've got blockchain, which is what we're talking about, you can't do the election fraud anymore. It's exposed. You can't do the laundering, the money laundering anymore. You can't do any of the trafficking that you do anymore because everything is transparent. So folks, if you're in the government, you're out there, you're the people in any country, choose wisely. Choose either the B system or choose the American economic system by what is called by God, or at least by the people on our society, our Cyrus or our David chosen by God to lead us into freedom. America, once we get out from under the global financial elite, has been and will be again the freest nation in the world. So be careful who you align with. Let's go on down and go to two slides real quick. I've used these before. I just always like to find an excuse to close on something positive. So requirements for peace and prosperity. That's what we got to have. Sovereign currency. That's coming. Sovereign borders. Honest elections. Resource independence. Look at what Trump's doing. Manufacturing prowess. Restoring $18 trillion coming back in. Remove regulatory obstacles so that we can build those factories. Energy independent, expose that green scam, and get all of those patents that have been suppressed under the Chevron deal. 5,915 amazing technological innovations controlled by America, released by the world to free us, and then establishing equitable trade agreements so that America is not losing global financial parity for all nations. Trump's talking about that. That takes us to the currency resets that are going to be enabled when Iraq falls, because they've got their foot on Iran. I mean, Iran falls because they got their foot on Iraq. So now we're going to see the dinar and the dong be able to be revalued. And boy, have our First and Second Amendments be insulted. That's going to change. And then we're going to find out how we've been lied to, and the people are going to lock arms, and we're going to once again stand as one nation under God, united and indivisible. Let's go on. I think there's one more slide other than an announcement of my book. So here's what we got. Once we are no longer under the control of the global financial elite, we become the only logical, reasonable choice for the world. We're a free society that people have been able to trust and will be able to trust. We have a diverse, abundant natural resources. America is one of the most resource-rich nations in the world, and we're getting more and more from other countries every day. A diverse, innovative economy. Like I said, 5,915 patents are on the way. Leadership in manufacturing and trade. We developed the Industrial Revolution, the dot-com revolution, the computer. We're leading in AI and nanotechnology. America is God's chosen nation. Our demographics are on our side. We have a fairly young population compared to China and Japan. Global language. No nation has been able to run the world or any significant portion of the world unless you had a unified language. America, according to the UN, is the language of the world, and a strong military to protect what you have. Let's go down to the final. Did we make it in 15 minutes, Rick?
Yes, good job.
Here we go. My announcement. My new book is coming out. Finally, we're going to be, I chose this date. I just thought it was kind of fun. I'm going to release the book for pre-sale on Valentine's Day. And then I'm going to release it for general sale on probably March the 15th. I'm having a meeting with my publisher on Friday, and we'll have that date solidified. So there's a couple of things we got to get done. It might slip by a week or so. But basically, my first book was what? Liberty Crusade, basically talking about the fight for the freedom of the world. This book basically now is when everything's turning over, and we're going to have to find out how we restore this republic and how we keep it. So this is a lifelong journey. I've been working to accumulate all this knowledge for almost 58 years now, and it's time to release it. So please, you can find me at libertycrusade.com. That's my website. And you can find me on my own channel. Come here to Rick. I mean, we do some amazing stuff. It's nice to be able to have the two of us have dialogue, but I do kind of a one-man show on my channel, which is Liberty Crusade Official. So join me on my channel. Join Rick every day. He's bringing in all kinds of amazing patriots, amazing Christians, and he is providing a voice for all kinds of people like me. So come join Rick as well. So if we're within that time frame, I'll say back to you to close us out.
Yeah, and I did want to just make sure that you guys knew, if you go to the Faith and Freedom TV in the middle of the screen, bottom of the screen there, right? faithandfreedom.tv, you will come to everything Larry was talking about. And we have an exclusive show that only is on Faith and Freedom TV, and the latest interview with Larry on the details of the silver squeeze is there. Again, just go to faithandfreedom.tv, scroll down to the exclusive Faith and Freedom content, and you will find the silver squeeze. We also have some other ones here where we talked about that America First in more detail. Amber May has an exclusive on here. We understanding Trump's America, which is another deep dive. That's all exclusive. Only will be found on the faithandfreedom.tv. Again, that's faithandfreedom.tv. You can also download that, by the way, which is kind of cool, on all these apps. So you can get the Faith and Freedom TV on your Roku, your Fire TV, your Android TV, your Apple TV, as well as your mobile devices, as well as just the web app at faithandfreedom.tv. With that, Larry, thank you so much for taking the time.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Sure. Go ahead.
Hey, folks, I want you to look at that man on the screen that was there a second ago. When he approached me, I need you to understand something. He's pulling in patriots like me from all over. He's building this channel, and it's got to grow. And guess who's paying for it? Him, out of his own pocket. You're not looking at one of these greedy people who are out there trying to make money. You're looking at a man who serves God. You're looking at a man who's trying to deliver the truth to everybody. So anybody out there, support this man. He is doing a great service for this country and for God.
Thank you so much. Do you have time for a quick prayer?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so I know Elizabeth pops on, one of the prayer warriors that loves to pray. So Elizabeth, would you mind praying for Larry?
It's an honor. Sorry about my bad hair day. What goes to America will hopefully go to Canada and UK and Australia, because we sure need it. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for Larry. I thank you for his commitment. I thank you for his knowledge. I thank you that he's willing to share so much. And all these guys put themselves at risk when they're sharing truth. We know that. So I pray for his protection, for his healing, and for his tenacity, for his strength, and for the books that he has released are so knowledgeable. And I thank you that we just need everyone to wake up and see what's truly going on. And I just thank you for President Trump, for his boldness at Davos. And I know it's crumbling. I know it has to be your timing, Father. And we thank you that you hear our cries. We thank you that you know we want liberty and freedom that we've never had before, and it's our time now. So I thank you. I thank you so much. I thank you financially for Larry too, and also for Rick. Thank you also for what he does. And we just thank you so much. It's just a gratitude thing for me today, because I'm excited that Australia is coming on the ebb of change. And we thank you so much for UK and Canada also, and all of Europe, because the whole world has been bound. And we thank you that you're unraveling those chains, you're setting us free, and we are excited for what's to come. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right. God bless you guys. Thank you so much, Larry. Looking forward. We'll see Larry next Thursday. I'll be doing another exclusive with him that will only be found on faithandfreedom.tv. So come and see that. Go get his book. And again, pre-sales will happen on February 14th. February 14th is Valentine's Day, right? No, February 7th. February 7th is a Valentine's Day, right? And so good stuff. God bless you, Larry, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rick.
All right.
Bye-bye,
God bless
everybody.
y'all. We'll see you guys over at the other
God
channel.
bless.
So the next thing that we're going to be doing is, guys, we're going to be going over to the Word and Worship channel, right? So those of you on Rumble, I can send you right over there pretty quickly. I think I already have it set up as a video ready to roll at 6:15. So I'm going to grab that right now and make sure that everybody on this channel will just be automatically taken over to that channel. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes, just so hold your horses just for a little bit as we do that. And so we'll see you guys over there in just a second. God bless you.